Hey everybody, it's PartyElite with another online battle today. Once again, I bring the Skaven to the field against the Empire led by Brab. As always, we begin with talk of composition and deployment, and while it's not as insane as yesterday's battle, there are a couple of touches of creativity here and there, I would say. Let's start with my Skaven. We do have Queek Headtaker in charge once more, of course, and off to the side over here, a Plague Priest atop the Plague Furnace, providing support with magic, and of course, the fact that it's a chariot. Then we've got a front line that consists of these clan rats with shields and the storm vermin with sword and shield alternating on the front line. Shields across the board though, just in case there are bullets and bolts on the other side of the field. I want these guys to be protected as they charge down. Then right behind them on either flank we have the storm vermin with halberds, able to dive in and provide support if there's a general of the Empire perhaps getting involved, or of course they can tuck to the sides and shut down any enemy cavalry that might get a little adventurous. Meanwhile, in the center here, we do have the Clan Rat Spears as sort of auxiliary anti-large units, able to dive in and once again, try and scare off the General of the Empire or any other large units that might come charging through. Up front, as you saw earlier, I do have 2 units of Gutter Runners with poison, and these guys are here just to make sure I can see what the enemy has brought to the field. They are a scouting unit, especially on this battlefield with the ridge right down the middle. I find it absolutely essential. They also have poison, as opposed to being a regular variant, because I do want them to get away if anything scary hits them nice and early. And of course, it's very important to have some anti-air when you're up against the Empire, who are likely to have at least command up in the air. And finally, tucked away in the trees over here, 2 units of Skaven slaves able to creep forward and hoping to push from the side into enemy artillery or range support in one way or another. With all that said, let's take a look at what the Empire's brought. Now, in charge, as suspected, the General of the Empire is in the air, and I pretty much saw that coming, either him or Boris Todbringer, and the Bright Wizard accompanies him as well up in the air. The front line is very much unbreakable in the middle. We've got the Flagellants, we've got the Tattersouls, and we've got Sigmar's Sons, and either flank consists of the Great Swords off to the left here, and to the right, a regular unit of swordsmen. Right behind them, we have the Free Company Militia on either flank, kept apart, so if anything large comes crashing through, they'll be able to support each other with whoever is free. Then we also have the Sunmaker, a Hellstorm rocket battery. Artillery is maybe not the best idea on this battlefield because you want to have scouting on the other side, and I guess that's the plan with the Airborne General of the Empire, hoping for large clumps of rats to gun down. And then we also have the Spearmen on either flank, as well as right behind the artillery, able to dive in and provide support wherever necessary if any large units come in from the Skaven. And finally, off on either wing, we have a unit of Reiksguard each, again able to push forward for flanking maneuvers of their own, or go scouting beyond that ridge. So let's take a look at how this all breaks down. A pretty simple deployment overall from both sides, but it does become a pretty crazy battle, I have to say. You'll see more or less right away the General of the Empire is going to push forward to scout and see what I'm doing on the other side of the ridge, and as my Gutter Runners here get spotted, I want to pull them back because, again, I want to keep them alive. That's why the poison is there as well, but as they're pulling back, they're going to be able to get some shots into the General of the Empire, so you'll see as they're just falling back, they turn around and get a couple shots in, do a touch of damage. They use poison as well to slow him down, and that way they'll be able to get some more hurt in, but that Hellstorm rocket battery responds, and it does a tremendous amount of damage to that one unit of Gutter Runners with poison, taking about a quarter of their health off and reducing their morale significantly as well. And you'll see the rest of my army is creeping forward ever so cautiously now that I know exactly what's on the other side of the field, and I can see the Reiksguard are tucking off to the side as well, while my Skaven slaves are tucking up forward through these trees too. Now, as my Gutter Runners push forward, they look for opportunities to fire at anything that's on the front line. Sigmar's Sons, Flagellants, Tattersouls, they are all unbreakable, so any damage I can get done is extremely helpful for when lines eventually meet. But you'll see the Free Company Militia are able to open shots, and meanwhile at the back here, I actually stop my Storm Vermin with halberds from pushing too far forward. My plan here was to try and bait charges from either side, as these guys are clearly posing for a pincer maneuver, or perhaps to just get in from the rear. I want to try and bait charges into these clan rats and these clan rats over here, and then have my storm vermin with halberds push in right afterwards. And you'll see, like clockwork on the right over here, the Reiksguard fall for that bait. They go charging into the clan rats. They see an opportunity here and maybe turn a blind eye to these halberds that are right there. So I allow them to just charge in, let them get through, and then right away, more or less, I send my storm vermin with halberds. And meanwhile, in the center, you can see the Hellstorm rocket battery has been doing a decent bit of damage. The Storm Vermin with sword and shield in the center have taken some hurt, and these Gutter Runners as well, now giving up completely while the other unit is very low on health as well, just around halfway down their hit point pool. And as the front lines now are about to charge into each other, we've got clan rats diving into Tattersouls. We've got these clan rats over here able to just creep by this unit of swordsmen to go after the spearmen back here. And again, over here, we've got the storm vermin with sword and shield diving into the great sword. So maybe a bit of misused resources here. I would rather not have my Storm Vermin with Sword and Shield up against an armor-piercing unit, but in the heat of the moment, we're just going in to charge and get some damage done. And meanwhile, all the way to the side here, you'll see the Reiksguard and the Bright Wizard both turn around just short of spotting my Skaven slaves, so I am actually safe on that flank there. They haven't been seen, and my plan can push forward if I just wait for these guys to creep forward and try and engage and get some rear charges. And you'll see at the same time the Storm Vermin with Halberd here creep forward, and I'm trying to line them up to absorb any charges in towards these Gutter Runners with poison, because again, I want to use them against the enemy Air Force, as small as it might be. Meanwhile, over here, though the Storm Vermin with Halberd were able to successfully engage the Reiksguard, they are, of course, on horseback and as such, very easily able to disengage and pull off to the side there. So well done by my opponent there, making sure that they don't get caught up. And meanwhile, up front over here, you'll see Pestilent Breath does come from the Plague Priest, doing a great deal of damage to Sigmar's sons. Now, they're not going to break, they're not going to get scared by the damage, but they are unbreakable, so I need to get the hurt through, because that's the only way to get them off the field. And you'll see the General of the Empire is in there as well, using Charmed Shield for the damage resistance, using Stand Your Ground to keep the nearby units fighting with increased melee defense. Of course, leadership is not as important, but Queek Headtaker is right there as well, and he decides to turn around and pushes in towards the General of the Empire, and right away decides to get involved. Of course, he dives in and tries to do as much damage as he can, uses Stand Your Ground, but again, it is just a little bit too late, as that unit of Storm Vermin are being terrified off the field. The Hellstorm Rocket Battery, meanwhile, continues to just pummel away at these rats, doing a great deal of damage here and there. I was actually hoping that it would do more friendly damage than it's doing, more friendly fire rather than it's actually doing, which is the only reason I hadn't engaged it yet. But unfortunately, well-managed target selection by my opponent, making my move completely useless. You'll see, meanwhile, I do have the Spearmen over here, currently engaged by my Clan Rats with shields, and in the center, Queek continues to chase after the General of the Empire, who's continuing to use, again, Flaming Sword of Ruin now to provide support to his troops wherever possible. The Plague Priest, though, having an absolute field day, just tossing these Tattersouls around, not really caring about any of the stats they have, as he's a chariot, basically, atop that Plague Furnace. And you'll see off to the side over here, as the Reiksguard try to cleverly push in for a side charge, I think, into my Gutter Runners with poison. I just send the Storm Vermin with Halberd in, try to engage these guys, hold them in place. They're able to get by just a little bit, but they do get engaged ultimately. And meanwhile, a very clever play here. We do have the Burning Head pushing through, taking care of these Clan Rats with shields, as well as the Storm Vermin with sword and shield here, doing a decent bit of damage. But more clever than that, I have to say, is what happens with the Reiksguard over here. I have to think this is intentional. I must give credit to my opponent for doing this. So the Storm Vermin with Halberd are giving chase to the Reiksguard, and very cleverly, they get baited right into the path of the Burning Head, doing just a touch of damage. So nicely done there, a little bit of hurt, a little bit of damage being taken there, both to leadership and to morale. Unfortunately, not enough to actually make a difference. Meanwhile, in the center here, you'll see the General of the Empire is being hit by those Gutter Runners with poison, taking a decent bit of damage. He is in the air, so Queek isn't able to do anything despite activating Dwarf Gouger. And meanwhile, all the way back here, you'll see some of my units are beginning to rally, and immediately I push them forward. There's no time to waste, no time to look pretty. They have to push in. The Bright Wizard as well is now a viable target, while off to the side here, these Skaven slaves are creeping forward. It's finally time to shut down the Free Company Militia, as well as the Sunmaker. Over here, you'll see a Plague Monk unit was summoned from beneath the ground by the Plague Priest. They were brought up somewhere around here, sent to charge in to the Free Company Militia, and look at how much damage has happened. They've maybe been on the field for 15 to 20 seconds, and the Plague Monks have already finished off 50 of them. And the reason why I prefer Pestilent Birth to Vermintide against the Empire is because of this exact reason. These guys are anti-infantry. They will make very quick work, and even though 2 units of Spearmen have piled in on the Plague Monks are only slowly falling apart, and they're going to do a bit of damage in the meanwhile. At the same time, you'll see over here the Reiksguard now turning around, trying to get a charge into the Plague Monks, and my Storm Vermin with Halberds continue to give chase, just trying to get some damage and shut down that cavalry unit. At the same time, the Skaven slaves over here pushing in while this unit of Reiksguard was taken care of. They managed to get a rear charge, but ultimately the Storm Vermin with Halberd have destroyed their will to fight and, of course, their health. The Free Company Militia firing away, the Hellstorm Rocket Battery as well, able to get some decent damage done to my Clan Rats with shields, but ultimately I just respond by charging into them instead. The General of the Empire, meanwhile, creeping over here, trying to provide some morale support to these guys to keep them fighting, keep those Free Company Militia on the field, while up front, Queek Headtaker and the Plague Priest just tossing some of the Tattersouls around again. They are unbreakable, so I have to finish them off. While back here, though, the Sigmar's sons dove into my Gutter Runners with poison. I just engaged them with my Storm Vermin, with Sword and Shield, and these Clan Rats, and then I send the Gutter Runners with poison forward, firing away as they march towards the General of the Empire, who again, if he takes to the air, at least I can shoot him down. The Free Company militia at the same time having a good time against the clan rats with spears, but reinforcements have arrived. The Storm Vermin with halberd and the Storm Vermin with sword and shield are free after having taken care of the cavalry there, and they're able to creep forward, and the Skaven slaves as well have arrived now and just pouring in, surrounding the spearmen, doing a lot of morale damage wherever possible. And you'll see the gutter runners here just firing away at the Reiksguard momentarily, but the General of the Empire does take to the air, and very soon I will start firing at him. Quick Head Taker as well, looking for an opportunity to dive into the General of the Empire and take care of enemy leadership as quickly as possible. The Free Company militia meanwhile turn around and they open shots into these gutter runners with poison, and that's not a terrible idea. These guys again are able to fire at airborne units, and the General of the Empire is in a precarious situation. If he's on the ground, I'm able to chase him with Queek. If he's in the air, I'm able to fire at him with these gutter runners. So good thinking there. Unfortunately, they're in a very precarious situation. As you can see, the Skaven slaves, a lowly unit of Skaven slaves, is just going to dive in, and I don't care how much damage they get through. What I care is that the Free Company militia is not able to continue firing. You'll see here the Bright Wizard is trying to provide support wherever possible, again using the Flaming Sword of Ruin, but it's just not doing enough. The Gutter Runners, meanwhile, engaged by the General of the Empire. One unit decides to fall back and is now firing away at the Reiksguard. This other unit as well, trying to fire away at the General of the Empire, both firing at the General of the Empire now. He's taking a lot of damage. You can see we have a nice cavalry charge going on over here, trying to provide support to the Free Company militia, but I, of course, respond right away with the Storm Vermin with halberd and the Storm Vermin with sword and shield, pouring in, trying to get a nice rear charge. The General of the Empire very low on health, trying to push in to respond, but my opponent decides today is not the day. Now, I took a bit of a risk leaving my opponent's artillery free to fire for almost the entirety of the battle, hoping it would do more friendly fire than it did. Unfortunately, my opponent found free targets and made sure friendly fire was minimized. Great work there. Now, there was some clever use of flanking maneuvers as well, but ultimately I think it was a lack of battlefield awareness combined with buckling under pressure of the sheer quantity on the other side of the field that prevented proper responses where possible. Also, not having a single large anti-large unit against the Skaven is a bad idea. Whether it's a Plague Furnace or a Doom Wheel, you need to be ready for at least something that's going to try ravaging your forces, like a chariot. As always, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more Total War content, online battles, total breakdown, a constant flow of tactical analysis and advice. And naturally, I'm always looking for what's new with Total War. Thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to meeting you on the battlefield.